So these GMT400s come with a set of 4x10s in the very back at the cargo doors, which is a funky size speaker. So some time ago I put two 6s in here by doing a little bit of plate work, but it has not exactly held up the way I might have wanted. Not sure how much I can see here or show here, but this one's holding okay. This one did not. Totally coming loose, but I had a couple of, you can see I got legs up there that I tried to glue to the ceiling. The ceiling is basically the outside of the truck, and there's plenty of room up here between the headliner and the outside of the truck to do this. But I've got an additional problem I want to fix. That my S10, its door speakers have blown, and it was a set of, I want to say a 6.5 and a 5 1/4 in the S10. Two 6s will fit in that same spot, and that's what these are. So I'm going to pull these out and put a set of 6x9s in this. Basically showing that it gives you two options you can do for the back of these GMT400 SUVs. That you can do a pair of 6s like this, but I'm going to do something different with the installation than I did last time. That should probably be a better option, because this, I just didn't use the right glue or whatever up there, but that didn't hold and stay the way I wanted to. So I'm going to fix that with this installation. So you can see the contraption here that I built to hold those 6s in there. And you can see there's the original factory plate. It's bolted in. I'll probably still leave that there. Don't think it'll be in the way. Can I do this one-handed? So now I've got a way bigger hole. Now I've got a way bigger hole than what I need, so I'll make it up with the plywood pieces. I'll probably finish it the same way I did those other speaker plates. But yeah, there's tons of room in there, especially if it's going to be stood off a little bit. There's tons of room for a 6x9 in there. So if you're doing yours, figure the original holes come out to about here and here. So yeah, you do about what I'm about to do here with the plywood. So I'll make some new pieces to hold the 6x9 in. But yeah, my glue didn't even hold at all. So that didn't work for me at all. I did put some sound deadening right under the speakers. But yeah, let's get back to it. Alright, just deleted the splitter. And this is just tied into the factory loom, so it'll run off the deck. And you remember, on this one, white stripe I've used as the negative leg, which is funny as the factory colors. There's a brown and a yellow. That's counterintuitive. But the smaller of the stereo style, what do you call those, spade bits, whatever they're freaking called, I'm having a mind blank, but the smaller one's usually the negative leg, and you look on the speakers, it shows you that as well. The larger one's the positive leg. And so that's what I've got there, double checking with the factory. On this side it's a light blue and a dark blue. Light blue ends up being the power leg, and the dark blue ends up being the, the other way around. Dark blue is the power, light blue is the ground, which is totally counterintuitive, but that's what it is. That glue almost held on here. Yeah, again, I'm going to leave those plates in there. I don't think they're in the way, and if I want them someday in the future, they're there. But alright, here we go. The backer plates, making them out of some 3/4 inch particle board, basically shelf board, mostly because it's what I have on hand, but it should work just fine for where it's going to be. And marking for the center of them. Cool thing is, in these Rockford Fosgate boxes, the packing material themselves, there's your trace for your cutout. That'll fit it. There's where your mounts go. I don't have one free, but one of these grills fits in here. So this gives you everything you'd need straight out of the box, a template for cutting, all that you need. So I just need to do some measurements, make this centered where I want it. Dimension wise, I'm going past the hole in the truck this way, but inside the hole this way, so that way I'll be able to slip it up and in. But this way it'll bind onto the headliner, because I'm going to clamp it between the headliner, between the two pieces of wood. And that should give it a nice stout place to live. But yeah, I'll show you what I mean by that. So you can see here, it'll slip up in there. It's more than enough to go past there, so it clamps in. So you see it fits that in the short direction, it slips up in the long direction. And I was looking, this is curved here, but that's nice and flexible enough. See, that's where it gets thicker and not as flexible. Flexible enough, it should actually straighten out nice and neat there with those boards. But yeah, so step 2, let's cut these out. Back and forth on the internet about whether or not you should or shouldn't use these, but I always have. These boom mat speaker baffles. I always put them in. Could have swore I ordered the shallow ones. These are the deep ones. There's no way that's going to fit. But I know I got more than enough depth. So what I'll do is the same thing I did the other time, is I'll slice these off and then staple them into there. And they are oversized for your speaker too. So it's probably just as well, because this ends up an oversized hole, which means it wouldn't seal very well, which is not what you want. So if I'm slicing off inch and a half of it and then stapling it to the inside of that wood there, and basically staple them to this face, then it fits. So I'm going to go about that. Alright, here we go. Now they're in there. Got those in, staple them in, so they'll fit now right up against the roof. Yeah, same thing over here, right against the roof. Got those holes centered in. I just noticed something. I used the drawing side on this one and not on this one, but it doesn't make a difference. So they do fit in centered. That, yeah, I can feel that bracket is there a little bit. Not so much there. So now I just got to cut those outside plates, and I could practically install them, except for waiting for the paint to dry. And I'll probably wait overnight for the paint to dry. So let me get back at it. Favorite saws right here. See how I can make those 2 quick cuts nice and square and even. Slice and dice nice and quick. Hooks up on the back side to a shop vac to mitigate the dust. Doesn't solve all of it, but most of it. There's still some underneath. But yeah, and you got the sled attachment. You can do angle cuts, 45s, whatever you want. So doing quick slices that end up being pretty squared up and pretty much identical to each other. I realized that was not a square cut on that side. That one is. And I'll have to fix that with the sander. Not exactly the grade of plywood I would want for this job, but these 2 pieces will work. So now I just got to get my 6x9s cut in there, sand everything down, and hit it with truck bed liner. So here we go. Very simple and very brutal method. 6 screws holding the particle board plate into the headliner. The headliner board itself is made of a fiberglass and foam mix, so it'll hold pretty well. And then these plates will go on top. And looking around at it, I have to use these plates to get the proper depth for the 6x9s. I'm not liking the gap I've got there, so I'll figure out something to do with that later. And it basically means I should not have cut those things too soon, but the baffles. But I'll figure something out to fill it. I don't think I want to do that with wood because it's an irregular shape. It's 1 inch at one end and ½ inch at the other. So I'm gonna have to do something with foam to fill that in. But I'll fill it in. I'll get it done. So here we go. I'm gonna get it mounted up. Okay, so I pilot drill these ones and the pattern to fit the speaker. Then I clearance these ones such that the screw will slip through. Because I don't want it binding up on this board. I want to just slip through this board. It'll drill into the other board and clamp that. And these boards, of course, being held by those screws, will be pretty solidly in place with the headliner. Occurs to me here the best way to go about this would probably have been to cut another set of speaker rings, same depth as this, because it is squishing down enough. It's compressing enough to be able to actually have made that work. But I'm already knee deep in, so I'm going to try something else to work. The problem I'm facing is these screws, while they look like they're long enough here, by the time you get the depth of the speaker ring and everything else, the actual speaker itself and its cover ring, it's probably only coming into here. So it's not going to work that way. So clearancing these, while a good thought, was not the way I should have done it. because I thought I'd be able to get it in here and get it to bite, but it's not biting. I don't know, I'm going to try one more thing, and then I'm going to see about going about it a different way, so we'll see. Alright, so I compressed them down some more. I'm going to try one more time to get them to actually bite, and hopefully they'll hold. The whole thing basically is pretty solidly attached to the headliner now. Got more gap on these screws than I wanted to. This is totally out. I thought I was in, but maybe that plate should have been about an inch wider. Now, obviously there's a long list of things I would do different on this. And if I was starting with 6x9s in this space to begin with, I never would have had a hole this big from here to here. They'd have been just as big as the factory one, and the plates would have been sized accordingly. But yeah, it's a 20-year-old truck. This will look neat enough and clean enough for me, and it'll actually perform the way I want it to with a set of 6x9s back here. 4 6s ended up with kind of a high-pitched noise. I'm hoping for more mid-bass out of the 6x9s than the 4 6s were giving me. So we'll see. I'll be the first to admit what I should have done was probably cut out some speaker rings out of this plywood to fit in there, but I'm going to use this method. I'm just some strips here, stick them in there, clamp them in with these screws again, and that'll hold it in. Should hold the whole assembly together. That gives them something to bite into. These screws are just too short. So that's what I'm choosing to do now. But cutting speaker rings out of this would have been better. But this will do. Alright, here we go. Alright, I'll be the first to admit that I'm no Dean and Fernando at 5-Star Car Audio or Mark at Car Audio Fabrication. But for me, for my purposes, it's in, it's solid, it works. And let's turn on the music and make sure it actually does work. Alright, as I wanted, more mid-bass out of the back, which is nice. A set of 6.5s in the door here. The 2 sets of components in that door there. Works out pretty nice, but yeah, much more mid-bass out of the back channels here than I was getting out of just the 4 6s. Alright, so I'll be the first to admit that this was just an experiment born out of what I did in the '93 Suburban when its 4x10s went out. I put 4-inch speakers back there. And that one I had a whole bunch of more experimentation. I had 4 sets in the mid doors, and then just a regular set up front, and then the dash speakers up front. So the '93 had a lot of stuff going on with the Rockford Fosgate amp powering most of the front stuff. So my thought was, instead of just 4s, put some 6s in. Well, that worked somewhat, but you don't get a lot of mid-bass out of that. Now in the S10, I'm not worried as much about having 4 of these in the door, because that'll give me a lot more of my high-pitch volume. I've got 2 8s in that truck that'll give me my bass. So in that truck, I think these will work fine. So that's what led me to where I was here. Me, I'd probably suggest, if you're asking the question, do I go with a set of these, 4 of those? No, I'd say just go for the 6x9s right off. The other option that might be there, if you have a big full-size spare like I do, it's in the way, a set of components back here wouldn't be a bad idea either. The 6 3/4 ones would fit pretty neatly if you were to stick them in here, and then the tweeters here so they beam the sound into the cabin instead of down at the floor. But yeah, this is it. Now I'm pretty much where I want to be with this sound system. Still teetering on the edge of whether or not I'll ever add a subwoofer to this, because with the 4 components that I've got up forward, I've got some pretty good mid-bass where I sit. So this may be how this truck sits stereo-wise for a good time to come. If you come this far, I hope you found something interesting or useful in this. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.